Caleb Bergson, and I'll be talking about the globalization of the Philippines. Located in Southeast Asia, the Philippines have been colonized by three different countries. Starting in 1542, Spain discovered and named the island during their attempt to expand their land ownership and influence, while also seeking to be closer to the East Indies for trading purposes. The Philippines would remain a colony of Spain for over 300 years before the Spanish-American War, which would lead to the country becoming a colony of a new country. In 1898, the Philippines were ceded to the United States. Much like Spain, the United States was looking to secure trade routes in Asia through colonization. Unlike Spain, following conflict with the Philippine people, the United States worked with the country in a way that would set up a civil government and eventually lead to their independence. I stated that the Philippines have been colonized by three countries. Japan had seized the Philippines during World War II, which held control for over 2 years as part of an offensive strategy in the Pacific. In 1944, the United States retook the Philippines from Japan and continued to foster the country toward independence, which was granted in 1946. Over the years of colonization, the Philippines were influenced by its coloners through exposure to religion, government, and government structures, and new trade partners. As a result of the influence of colonization, the country now mirrors those cultural, social, and economic political positions. One of the easiest way to determine the level of development for a country when looking at three aspects of globalization through the use of KOF index. The KOF Economic Globalization Index of the Philippines shows a score of 56.23. When we compare this to the average, which sits closer to 60, we can arrive at the conclusion that the Philippines are developing in terms of economic development. As the Philippines is continuing to grow, its economic will push closer to the developed level. However, for now, being behind the average will force it to fall into the development category instead. Using the KOF Political Globalization Index, we can see that the Philippines scored an 80.77, which is significantly greater than the average of 67.98. This is an indication that the country sits at the level of developed. The Philippines are members of several international organizations, global treaties, and other international policies, which helps to indicate their political development level thanks to globalization. Finally, the KOF Social Globalization Index for the Philippines is 62.69, whereas the global average is 62.22. Many outside countries and groups are seeing the culture thanks to digital platforms and incorporating them into their own culture. Overall, while the KOF score is above the average, it is not significantly greater, which would mean that the country is spreading or developing but not yet developed. Advocates for globalization agree that businesses and countries will experience economic growth. Additionally, it promotes innovation and competition as it drives countries to improve their goods and services to be more competitive amongst other countries that produce the same items. Finally, it improves socioeconomic development. International trade can help with improving poverty, education, and health, among other things. Ultimately, by creating more jobs, there is lower economic unemployment rates. Education is a higher priority to ensure there is a next generation to Philippines, and healthcare is essential to ensure longer life expectancies. There are potential drawbacks to globalization as well. Globalization has the potential for economic inequality to occur. Often, if the country fails to prioritize inclusivity across industries, some industries will not see the same success. Additionally, there is potential for labor and labor standards to take a hit. This happens as a result of the country being in competition with other countries to produce products cheaper to turn a larger profit. This often results in wages decreasing or overall labor standards falling. Finally, in some countries, as globalization takes off, the country cannot keep up with maintaining a balance between infrastructure building and environmental friendly decisions. This can result in environment or health care declining in order to keep up with the demand. In the Philippines specifically, globalization has played a key role in helping to elevate the developing country through the creation of new jobs, technology advancements. Unfortunately, like many countries, the Philippines is struggling with sustainability, and keeping the economic growth equal across all industries. One of the multinational corporation that conducts business in the Philippines is Procter and Gamble, or P&G. P&G originated in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1837. As the company grew, so did its desire to expand internationally. In an attempt to set up its first operation in the Far East, P&G established their first expansion in the Philippines in 1935. By having a foothold in the Far East, P&G would now be able to manufacture and sell products at a greater international capacity. P&G was met with several opportunities by entering the Philippines. First of all, it manufactured innovative products that were often the first of their kind in the country. This gained the attention of the individuals in the country and increased the potential revenue for P&G. Furthermore, with its location, it allowed a greater international trade. On the flip side, P&G was faced with the challenge of how to reduce its environmental impact. The company as a whole creates large quantities of plastic, which can be detrimental to the environment if not taken care of properly. P&G has faced lawsuits as a result of its use of plastic and lack of sustainability environmental measures. Two international institutes that the Philippines are members of are the IDA and the IMF. IDA, which is a section under the World Bank, is critical, especially to the poorest nations, as it helps to provide interest-free loans and grants to help elevate and improve the standard of living. Much much in the same way, IDA has helped to improve the standard of living for those in the Philippines. For example, when COVID-19 pandemic caused havoc and insurmountable loss of life, the World Bank through IDA helped to purchase and distribute vaccines to the Philippines. Additionally, over the years, it has helped to fund various projects that help the country grow both economically and socially as well. Additionally, the Philippines are members of the IMF. The main purpose of the IMF is to set a framework for achieving sustainability, growth, and prosperity through various economic, political, or special drawing rights for all of its members. In the same way, the IDA helped the Philippines in a light of pandemic. The IMF was also a contributing factor to help the country during a time of uncertainty. The IMF was able to pull specially draw rights to help send $2.8 billion to help pass economic and healthcare, sending policies to promote stability and sustainability to the economy. Overall, both international institutions help to foster sustainability and prosperity to the country. The Philippines belong to two trade blocs, the APEC and the ASEAN. Both trade blocs work to enhance the trade between member countries as well as trade with outside countries. The APEC is geared toward helping member countries achieve a sustainability, inclusive, and innovative economic growth among its members. Key components of the APEC include the fact that all members have equal say in the decision making as well as facilitating trade. This is done through the facilitation of custom procedures, regulations, and standards and enhanced business climates. The Philippines were one of the founding countries of the ASEAN in 1967, with a unified front to prevent the spread of communism. Today, ASEAN is responsible for having several free trade agreements with outside countries. The main trade agreement of ASEAN is the ASEAN Trade and Good Route, which works to create a single market, zero tariff on most goods, anti-dumping protocols, and many other components. The Philippines is an essential trade partner due to its location within the Southeast Asia. As such, The major trade partners for the Philippines include China, Japan, and the United States. These three countries rank in the top five for both exports and imports, with China and Japan being in the top three for both. The imports and exports in the Philippines are varied across multiple industries. For example, import range from machinery to cereal, while exports range from much the same from machinery to fats and oils. In spite of this variety across the industry, the leading imports for the Philippines are electrical machinery, oil, and mineral fuels. The industry industrial machinery, while the leading export are electrical machinery, industrial machinery, and copper. Exchange rate reference to the value of the currency in comparison to another. Therefore, the fluctuations of exchange rates will impact global trade as well as result in an increase or decrease of the cost of conducting trade. Stronger currency makes import less expensive while driving the cost of exports to be more expensive. The same idea can be said for a weaker currency, which will make the cost of importing more expensive while saving the cost of import goods. As a result, the government have to monitor the exchange rates when conducting global trade to help influence pricing and other trade strategies. Who doesn't love an interesting fact that sparks an interest in the country? For example, I was unaware of how many islands made up the Philippines. In fact, there are well over 7,110 islands, so many that it requires the country to divide them into three distinct geographical regions for easier identification. When selecting topics to research, I personally love selecting a place that has some relevancy to me. In this case, at the beginning of the year, I was deployed to the Philippines for 3 months for a training exercise. When I was there, we were able to explore a little bit of the island. However, I knew there was so much more that I could learn from about this location. In addition to my own experience within the country, two of my elementary age children had foreign exchange teachers from the Philippines last year. Again, having interaction with the teachers throughout the year highlighted the difference between the Philippines and the United States. This ultimately left me curious about the country overall. What I used to think of as a small developing country has surprised me just from my exposure within the last year and now this opportunity to dig a little deeper into the country.